Hey, how you doing today? So this is our Lost Centuria video of the week. I have gotten quite a bit farther to the point where at Gold 2 it's starting to get scary doing ranked battles, because whenever you actually lose the battles, you start losing a lot of rank. But we can see here that I've been lucky enough to find a strategy for myself that seems to be working pretty well. I got a lot of wins in a row right here, buddy. I mean, it's only in Gold 2 or whatever, Gold 3, but hey, it's working out for me, so I want to share with you some of the tips as well. Also because I've been getting questions about the actual mechanics of the game and how to better your playstyle, so I'm going to give you a couple tips about counters and a little bit of what I've been doing to try and help you better your strategy yourself so that you could climb easier too. And super quick before we get started, we all know that these package prices are kind of bullcrap, but be surprised to know that I'm hosting an event on Friday. That is, it's not game specific. You don't have to be a pro at Lost Centuria. You don't have to be a pro at this guy in order to play. It's just a general contest that everybody can play in, and I'm going to pair it with a big reveal that I'm doing Friday as well. And the cash prize of this event is going to be a $50 prepaid Visa gift card. So if you want one of these packs, you could pay for it with that, but it's prepaid, so you can buy whatever you want. So without wasting too much time, let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, the first thing I actually wanted to go ahead and point out is that legendaries are not everything. I do see a bit of complaining rolling around that people are getting tossed by legendaries. We see my opponent here has 5 legendaries on his team, but the problem is his team does not have synergy. So with my team, you're going to notice that I always have a turn 1 strategy. There is always set up. I have at least 4 units on my team that I would be happy to use at the beginning of a match, no matter what. So let me go ahead and explain that my turn 1, I got Bernard in my hand. Bernard is also on a swift set, which reduces the mana cost by 1. Now what Bernard does is he puts acceleration on my entire team, which increases my mana regeneration per alive enemy. So using it in the very beginning is the most ideal way to use that, and using it as fast as possible. The faster you use it, the more enemies that are on your side of the field, the faster you will be regenerating your mana. So now I'm at a point where that is ideal because I got him first in my hand. I was able to play him ASAP before any other card was able to be played, and I'm achieving mana at a much faster rate than I would normally. And this also goes to say that Bernard is not my only turn 1 condition. We can see that I have Eleanor frontline so that she is being targeted by the enemy. Whenever you are starting in unicorn form as Eleanor, using her card is going to put a damage reflection on herself. So since all of the enemies are auto-attacking Eleanor, she will be reflecting a portion of that damage to the enemies if you use her skill first. As well, another good turn 1 condition that I have is Mav. With Mav, he will put a defense buff on himself and Eleanor. He will also put HP regeneration on them both to make them recover HP a little bit faster because of the soul stone that I have on him. So if I use his ability, he will swap places with Eleanor. Eleanor will transform into human form, setting me up to use a cleanse if I need to use a cleanse. Another good turn 1 condition on my team is Colleen. Even though I don't have her on Swift per se, I would like to get her on that eventually. She's on energy to help recover a little bit more HP with her healing, but putting an attack buff on your entire team as fast as possible is a very good way to make sure that your normal auto attacks are doing a lot more damage. And the last turn 1 condition I have on my team is Beretta on a Swift set, because we see that I have single target vastly covered by my team, and then Beretta is my one area of effect attacker. Now, area of effect can be very, very useful if the enemy does not have a cleanse. Here we see that the enemy team does have an Eleanor, which is a cleanser, and that could pose us some problems. And I do remember that I put down some bad continuous damage. If you see my continuous damage right here, will probably be cleansed by Eleanor. So you need to be able to gauge whether the enemy has that cleanse, whether or not they have the mana to actually use it at the time you go to use your area of effects. And if they are just going to be spamming cleanses on your debuffs, then maybe it's better to focus on single target, in which you can see I have a lot of single target going for my team. Now, even though it may seem like all of my single targets are serving the same purpose, they're actually serving different purposes. You see, Seek has a very high attack, so he is able to counter at a low 3 cost mana, so that whenever Ramagos goes to do his clean shot, I can counter with Seek and then end the Ramagos, and that also does a lot of damage to all enemies. It's probably one of my highest attack monsters. Terragos, the fire elemental, has a stun paired with his attack, so I have a 3 cost stun. So if the frontline enemy is going to use an ability that I want to stun them out of, I can very easily just use that to stun them out of it. And lastly, the legendary attacker I like to take advantage of is Ragdoll, because we all know that some enemies just spam Berettas, and they just spam area of effects. They just spam one really strong attack over and over and over again, and Ragdoll is the perfect counter to that, because he will counter the last person that attacked. So if the enemy attacks and they just continuously attack with that that same character, Ragdoll can target them specifically and put a debuff on them that whenever they spam that attack with the same character, it causes a dragon fire breath area of effect to attack their whole team. So with a little bit of the setup of my team out of the way, let's go ahead and unpause the match and I'll show you some of it happening in real time. I'm pretty sure that Eleanor is about to cleanse my Beretta's area of effect, so you will see how you need to be more careful with that and how I messed that up in this match. Poseidon is a little bit of a tricky one because he puts deceleration on your entire team, which makes your entire team's mana bar move slower. So I had to counter with Bernard to get my acceleration back and my mana back. Now also notice he put Dragon's Gaze from his Ragdoll, like I was talking about, on my Bernard. So whenever I was spamming the acceleration, it actually caused my Bernard to hurt my entire own team. Plus we saw his Eleanor cleansed the area of effect dots that I put down. Pretty sure I'm about to do it again, put down some more area of effect dots, and she will in fact cleanse it again. Now notice that I'm noticing my area of effects aren't really being as effective as I would like them to be, so what I'm trying to do now is move more towards single targets. And at this point, I'm essentially just spamming supports as much as I can and then going to use single targets whenever I have enough excess mana. But I definitely prioritize supports unless I'm going for a counter. This was about the point in the match where I realized that I could probably just single target their entire team and do a lot more damage than they were actually doing to me. So I start spamming single targets and heals, and it actually ends up working out in my favor. Now I have 2 allies on my team with Dragon's Gaze, so if I use Seek or if I use Terragos, I will be damaging my own team. Their area of effect cleanser is gone, so now I'm starting to rely on damage over time Beretta again, and I also make sure to have summoner spells to help support my team because it's very good to have a cleanser. Debuffs are very, very strong right now, so it's very good to have a cleanse on your team. Now at this point, I'm just ready to wait for the enemy to attack and counter with stuns. We saw that Elucia was going to heal her ally, so I waited for her to do that, and I used Terragos to stun her out of it. And finally, with my single target damage, I was able to pull out a win. Now I showcased this match to explain the basics of my team, how it works in different situations if the enemy has a cleanser, if they don't have a cleanser, and just show you a general strategy of how I'm doing my battles. Now let me show you how I go against teams whenever there's just damaging enemies. We see that their only heal is Colleen, which means that we don't have to worry about a cleanser. So what I like to do is I like to set up with Colleen and get the attack buff as soon as I possibly can, or Bernard for speed buff as soon as I possibly can. And with teams that don't have a lot of cleanse or a lot of heal, I just go in all out, set up for attack and speed, and just start spamming attacks ASAP. Now this guy unfortunately put his Poseidon in the first slot, so it's very easy to take him out. If you have Poseidon, do not make him your main tank because his kit is very, very useful. Definitely do not want him to be the first one on your team to die. So since Colleen went ahead and used her heal, I am using Ragdoll to put Dragon's Gaze on that Colleen, knowing that she is his only healer. Now if she goes to heal again, Dragon's Gaze will take effect and do damage to her entire team. Now I know that I can essentially just use area of effects on their team. They can't cleanse out of it, they can't really out heal the damage it does, so I'm just starting to spam attacks. Now with this lightning bolt card, notice that the main target was fire and they had 3 other fire enemies on their team. It's very useful to use that card in order to target a certain element if they have a mass majority of certain elements on their team. I found the fire enemies to be the most threatening, so those are the ones I use. Notice this counter. As he uses damage conversion, I counter with Seek so that I can actually kill the Perna before the damage conversion activates. And that is a prime example of waiting on a summoner spell and then countering the summoner spell. If he had gotten off that damage conversion, it would have healed the Perna back to full and possibly made the fight take a little bit longer. I saved the mana that I needed to use that ability, and whenever I saw the damage conversion go off, instantly tapping Seek, making that attack go off. Now with this match, I get to showcase the tankier side of my team. If you haven't noticed, my team is a little bit of a jack of all trades. It's pretty good at AoE, it's pretty good at single target, it's pretty good at tanking, it's pretty good at healing, it's pretty good at everything. So you're never going to be the best at one certain thing with this team, but you do always have something for a certain situation. Now you'll notice that their team tries to take advantage of killing my frontline ASAP, which I could very easily just keep them up for a very long period of time because swapping positions with Mav sets me up on Eleanor to use a cleanse. Noticing that his team has a lot of debuffs, I want to make sure I keep that cleanse available. He just used his Lucian, which takes a lot of mana, so I know that I can put down this area of effect continuous damage, and his Wusa will definitely not have enough mana to cleanse that just yet. Now that my Eleanor is getting low, I can use Mav to switch again, which is going to supply her with a little bit of heals and use her for the cleanse so that my team is still staying up. I have so much heal potential that it's just so difficult for them to actually kill my frontliners if I want my frontliners to stay alive. A good thing to notice here, if you see all the debuffs I have on my team, being able to swap positions with Eleanor and use that cleanse on command is very, very useful, especially if she's being the main focus, and swapping her to the side to help prevent the enemy from focusing on her for too long. Now this match is going to be a showcase on how a well-placed counter can actually win you an entire match. Now this is going to be one of those challenge matches, so we all know how important it is whenever you lose one of these matches. Now notice that he has Ramagos frontline, so I know I'll be needing to counter him eventually. I'm going to try and set up my frontline ASAP to make it to where I do not lose the auto battle in frontline. So I'll swap Eleanor with Mav. Now I know that my Mav will not die before his Ramagos dies. So I'm going to save enough mana that I need in order to use Terragos, and whenever he goes to clean shot, I will counter. The second I see Ramagos's picture, I counter it and get him out of the picture. And this match was very, very close, so that alone was enough to alter the entire battle. If I did not do that, I would have lost. Now we're essentially in a damage battle, so we're just sitting here trying to do as much as we possibly can. I'm going to put on my area of effect because I see my continuous damage was almost on its last tick, so I can transfer that last tick to the enemy, and now he has to deal with his own area of effect damage. Saving that card for that moment was very pivotal in this match. Now even if it gets cleansed off, that's a lot of mana that he just had to use, so I know that I could have healed at that same time and stock up so that I could have enough mana to use these other abilities whenever I need to. Now this is where it starts to get rough. He has more people on his team living, he has more damage than I do, so what I did is I waited for his Beretta to use his area of effect, knowing full well that I could not take two of those and win this match. So after he used his first one, I went ahead and I used Ragdoll's ability to hit that Beretta so that if he does it again, he's going to end up hurting himself in the long run. Seeing here, I noticed that they have more fire enemies, so I wanted to save the electric bolt for that moment, but he's starting to get too much damage on me, and we're just not trading well. He's getting more damage than I am. Right here, it looks like all is lost, but with that Dragon's Gaze that we strategically placed on Beretta, knowing that he would probably use that ability again, we were able to get off that area of effect from Dragon's Gaze on his team and combo it with a Chain Lightning to do enough damage to win the fight. And I guess the reason I showed that is just to say that it's not all about counter placement. A lot, more than probably 75% of a match, I find, is just having a strategic backup plan. The very first thing you need to do whenever you're loading in is analyze the enemy team. Do they have a cleanser? If they have a cleanser, is it frontlined? Can I kill that cleanser ASAP and then start spamming AoEs? Do they have a lot of damage potential that I'm going to have to swap my frontline position a lot? Do they have a lot of AoE dot potential that I'm going to have to cleanse off? And then try and save cards in your hand so that you could play to that strength or that weakness. Whatever strategy they're going at, you want to make sure you have the counterplay in your hand. So if they have Beretta and they like to spam Beretta, do you have your cleanser in your hand for when that pivotal moment strikes and you need to use it? Are you able to use it? That is a big part of it. Also, the early preemptive stages. Did I get off a speed buff in the beginning, which set me up for the rest of the match? Did I get off an attack buff in the beginning, which helped me do more damage for a significant portion of the match? Did I have a counter to that Ramagos? If I did not counter that Ramagos, that match would have been easily lost. Also, whenever you're determining if you have a counter for all of the enemy's plays, you have to keep your eye on the right side of that screen so that whenever you see the play come up, you do get the counter in time. You do have to focus on enemy animation time. Are you able to counter fast enough before their animation goes off and they end up doing half their damage? At that point, was it even worth countering? If Ramagos is going to do clean shot and you want to counter with Terragos, you have to make sure you see that Ramagos picture come up, and the second you see that, you have to react in an instant and click that Terragos to stun him. You need to be really careful about what counters you're using at what times, because if the enemy, say you have spoil on an enemy and they're taking damage over time, and they go to cleanse that with an Eleanor, well, just because you saw the enemy going to do an attack and then you click Beretta too fast, and now you've laid on even more dots on the enemy team at the worst time possible so that you countered an Eleanor who is actually cleansing off all those dots as you speak. The reaction time is less than 2 seconds. You see the enemy face on the screen, you have to determine, what is that enemy doing? What is their purpose? Do I have the card in my hand to counter that? And is this a good time to counter that? It is an intense reaction window that you have to practice and get used to, and you're only going to get better at it with the more you play. And that's pretty much gonna do it for me today, y'all. It's hard to explain this, I don't know if I explained it well. Hopefully I covered a lot of the bases, but yeah, so I tried my best. As I get more practice in, I'll probably be able to explain it even better. But other than that, y'all, that's gonna do it for me today. If you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord, but don't be sensitive in there because we have a bunch of different people from all sorts of different games that like to have fun, so just drop a meme or something. And other than that, y'all, that's gonna do it for me today, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.